Hello and welcome to this webcast from Foodservice Consultant Society International, FCSI. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Mike Jones. I'm the editorial director for Progressive Content and FCSI's Foodservice Consultant magazine. Many thanks to you for joining this webcast today, which is focusing on the future of food service in Latin America. This is actually the second in a series of FCSI webcasts focusing on how each global food service sector is rebounding or otherwise from the debilitating impact of COVID-19 in each major geographical region, while exploring growth opportunities and significant challenges facing each region now that the lockdown is lifting in most territories. This particular webcast is, I'm very pleased to say, supported and sponsored by our good friends at Woodstone. Please check out their website, which is woodstone-corp.com for more details. I'm delighted to say that as we limited registration to this webcast exclusively to the first 100 signups, we again have a full house today. So we have registrants from all across the Latin America region, including, I'll take a deep breath for this, Argentina, Brazil, Costa Rica, Chile, Colombia, El Salvador, Mexico, Peru, and Puerto Rico, as well as a lot of registrants from across the US, Canada, Germany, and the UK, Malaysia, India, South Africa, Italy, and Belgium. So our audience today is a varied mix of food service consultants, operators, dealers, distributors, and equipment manufacturers. A few of you who had kindly tuned in to the last webcast that we presented on food service in Europe, Africa, and Middle East will notice that some of the slides in today's presentation are repeated, but otherwise this is very much focused on Latin America and its food service sector, with some really great local examples of operators doing very innovative things in Latin America. The webcast itself will be presented by Global Data's Consulting Director, Mark Dempsey, who has a real passion for the sector in Latin America and is very experienced in that part of the world. I will shortly hand over to Mark, who will be presenting for approximately 25 to 30 minutes, and then he will take some questions at the end of the session. You can submit questions to Mark during his presentation. I would request that those questions, please, are not too specific or esoteric, but if they are about broad trends, potential opportunities and challenges in Latin American food service, Mark will be very happy to answer those at the close of the session. I'll collate those and I'll put those questions to Mark. Finally, before Mike begins, I would like to promote our next webcast, which focuses on the future of food service in North America. And that, again, is also very kindly supported by our friends at Woodstone. Thank you to them. That particular webcast will take place in mid to late August. We don't actually have a confirmed date for that one yet, but details will be shared on fcsi.org and across our social media channels. Otherwise, let's focus today on Latin America, and let me hand over to Mark Dempsey. Many thanks, Mark.
Good afternoon to everyone on European time zone, and good morning to everyone joining us from Latin America or North America. It's great to be able to present to you our thoughts on trends and inspirations in a time of change. Of course, we will focus on some COVID-19 effects, and as well as looking at wider opportunities and wider changes across food service in LATAM. We'll consider a couple of wider themes, some global inspirations, some global best practice, and also, of course, think about the changing consumer too. So we'll open with a few brief thoughts about the changing world. You'll notice a theme of change as we look through the agenda. We'll move on to think about changing industries, changing consumers, and something that we're particularly passionate about at Global Data, which is the idea of inspiration. And then we'll close by looking at how we can move forwards from here with some recommendations for areas of focus. So whether you're dialing in as an operator, a manufacturer, distributor, or strategic partner to the food service industry, our aim today is to give you some new thought leadership and some new, let's say, prompts and ideas about ways in which you can change and you can support the industry. As Michael mentioned, there will be some repeat slides from the EMEA, such as the, let's say, some of the global inspirations, but there is some considerable new content in here. And let's start with that. So just an example from Argentina, just in the last couple of weeks. For those of you that don't know, Pani from Argentina, a very well-known, a very embedded heritage bakery company within Argentina, just in the last couple of months having to totally change business model to survive, moving away from being predominantly, if not entirely, high street bakery style, and actually having to think about new consumer occasions. How do you service the in-home occasion in a world which has moved away from high street bakery, high street food service? How do you think more and more about meetings and events in an environment where they are predominantly taking place from home or in considerably smaller groups than ever before? So when we see a storied operator with real heritage, real leadership, dramatically changing its business model to survive, I think that triggers us at Global Data, and me personally, and I'm sure many of you on the line, to think, how do we need to act in a time of real change? Because even some of the most prominent brand operators in Latin America are declaring significant losses and having to think about closing stores. So I would imagine everyone on the line dialing in from Latin America is absolutely aware of the company Alsea, trading the franchises of such brands such as Starbucks, Burger King, Domino's again is another example, across all of the main countries across Latin America. This just from last week, very significant net losses declared for the second quarter. January to March had seen some slowdown, some concern, but in Latin America, it's certainly true that the biggest challenges have come in the second quarter of 2020. And this statement from Alsea seems to absolutely reassure that. Certainly, it makes us wonder if recovery in Latin America into Q3 and Q4 may actually be considerably slower than in other parts of the world, such as Europe, which is already starting to show some bounce back. This company has actually in Argentina, as an example, closed 5 Starbucks and 8 Burger Kings permanently in an attempt to support their ongoing operations. So, a time of dramatic change, some storied brands, some successful businesses having to change model and close stores. So it's important that we start to think about what's happening in the world and try to paint a picture. So the world is changing. 1.5 million people per week being added to the urban population. Well, why is that relevant in a discussion about food service, you may well ask? Well, it's changing the way that we interact. It's changing the way we go about business. It's changing the way we go about our lifestyles. One of the most dramatic benefits and changes that we see when urban populations increase and urban centers change dramatically is there will be more and more convenience stores. Well, why is that important? Well, convenience stores are one of the fastest adopters in retail of food service. So you can hardly go into a food service outlet around the world or in LATAM. OXO is a great example, without finding coffee in the morning, hot bakery, fresh hot made sandwiches, even ready meal, evening meal solutions now. Food service is booming within convenience stores, and urban growth, urban change is driving that. And if we think about that one step further on, as we tend to live more and more now in downtown urban centers, this is true in Latin America as it is in North America and increasingly in Europe, where and how we shop and eat will change. As we see more and more higher and higher prevalence, if you like, of convenience stores, we also see higher and higher prevalence of fast casual outlets, street food trucks, let's say more indulgent food service occasions, all walkable within a downtown core. People more and more living day to day in terms of how they choose to eat, and more moving into food service for their evening meal solution rather than just cooking at home. So urbanization by itself might seem to not necessarily be a significant factor in food service, but it's driving change and driving trends that all of us on this line should be able to find, let's say, positive reason to drive business. Now, I mentioned one of the things that we like to do on these webinars is identify gold standard, call out best practice where we see it. And I don't think it's unfair of me to say many of you might be surprised to hear me immediately call out Burger King for their gold standard. But in my view, keeping an eye on those big operators around the world, manufacturers around the world that are being proactive and really leveraging the up-to-date trends, Burger King is a great example. Perhaps my favorite piece of advertising from this whole coronavirus period, the social distancing Whopper, the Whopper with triple onions that keeps others away from you. Now, we are in dire times. We are in awful times, times that are affecting people's health, their families, their jobs. But this is let's say this is not the time to lose our values. This is not the time to lose our sense of humor in terms of our marketing, in terms of our go-to-market strategies. Burger King keeping right on meshes there with a really great up-to-date piece of marketing. But it's also about how you can be inclusive and you can be understanding of your consumers' needs. In the middle, we have Burger King saying, don't spend $5 a day on a latte. Spend $5 in the month and get a coffee every single day. We can provide you with value. We can provide you with convenience. And then on the right-hand side, actually from Burger King in Brazil towards the end of 2019, a truly great and inspirational TV commercial featuring a blind protagonist, showing Burger King as decisively inclusive. And there were, of course, let's say, spoken commentary over the course of the TV commercial for the blind audience too. Really great leveraging of a brand and standing behind your ethics and letting the consumers know what you stand for. Now, talking of what consumers are focused on, what consumers want to see people standing for, the environment and the ethics, this is something that is ubiquitously true around the world. So while these are global numbers, these numbers are increasing around the world in every region that we look at and are just as important in Latin America as they are in Europe or North America. So the environment concerns are impacting decisions. In fact, we now see more than 80% of global consumers telling us that living a sustainable lifestyle is important or very important. And if we indeed consider the second stat on this page, incredibly, we now see increasing numbers of consumers telling us that living a sustainable lifestyle is more important even than increased income. Now, I think if we think back, certainly 10 years, maybe even 5 years, that concern for the environment probably wouldn't have existed in the way it does today, if at all. So I hope that this shows that one of the ways that we need to connect with consumers all around the world and in Latin America is by absolutely leveraging the environment and the ethics. Of course, health is growing in concern and focus for consumers. We see considerably more numbers of consumers today telling us that they are proactively seeking products to improve their health. And so an example of best in class actually comes from the retailer Kroger in the US, developing a new app called Opt Up. Really detailed, granular information about the nutritional information available from products, offering replacements, giving you solutions for healthier options, tracking diets. And then actually one of the interesting ways that global data sees the world moving is that something will develop in retail and then quickly progress into food service. And of course, also vice versa at times. So in a very similar play to the Kroger app, again, best in class here from the US, we see the fast casual chain Piada combining tech and health. And their mobile app allows customers to build up rewards points, cultivating an idea of brand loyalty based entirely around individual health needs. Really best in class thinking there from Piada, and we can recommend that to all food service players around the world. So as we work our way through, this is more of an insights deck, more of a trends idea, but there are a few metrics, of course. We need to talk about the size of the marketplace, and the food service market is significant. Indeed, it has been growing, and despite the fact that there will have been very significant dips in 2020, we expect that the market will continue to grow, hopefully bouncing back to the levels that we'd seen. So if we consider 2019 versus 2018, around the world, we see around about 2% growth. Latin America had been a little bit below that, at growth of around about 1.5%, 2018 to 2019. But in general, this is strong growth. Indeed, by 2022, even with the blip caused by coronavirus this year, we expect the market to be worth $1,500 billion. So still growing and still absolutely a marketplace that you want to place big bets in. The world has changed dramatically in 2020. And we have to acknowledge that long-lasting effects may be possible. So we're heading towards 17 million global cases, roughly 4% of which appear to be fatal. Of course, time will tell as we move on how well different regions will have combated the virus. We are finding, I think, in Latin America, some significant challenges with communication of the disease, communication of, let's say, best practice in terms of avoidance, safest ways to return to work. It's being managed in some areas better than in others, but that's true around the world as well. However, as we think about life in Latin America moving forward from here, we absolutely need to consider how many businesses will be left. We need to start considering that everyone on the line today, every business that we look after, you will see changes in terms of the competitive set. Some businesses will go out of business. Some businesses will dramatically need to reduce store numbers to survive, and many will need to rapidly change their business models. This may seem unsensitive at this time, but this will create very significant opportunity, potentially in terms of merger and acquisition, potentially in terms of takeover for everyone on the line today. Now, just to paint a picture in terms of just how significant decline has been in food service, I'd like to take a moment and explain this slide. Lots of numbers here, but the theme is very clear. This is very simply 2020 Q2 compared to 2019 Q2. So we're comparing like-for-like food service channels across consistent regions. So this is very simply the effect of coronavirus in 2020 when we looked at 2019 sales. And we see double-digit declines in every region for every channel. That's the simple executive summary. There's no escaping that. Now, for obvious reasons, travel and accommodation have been the very worst hit in every region, and they will start to recover. But we do see very consistent declines across every channel, every region. And actually, for those of you dialing in from Latin America, one of the main headlines from this deck is that actually Latin America is the second worst hit region in terms of overall food service decline, lagging only just behind North America, which of course is led considerably more by the US than Canada. So let's just take a moment and dive down into restaurants specifically. So within restaurants, global data tracks 4 main outlets: coffee and tea shops, the likes of Starbucks, full service restaurants. So for example, Hard Rock Cafe, TGI Fridays, ice cream parlors, and then also quick service restaurants, which features the likes of McDonald's and Burger King as an example. Now, again, in Latin America, we see double-digit declines as we do for all regions. And again, we see Latin America being the second worst hit region behind North America. So the picture is quite bleak in Latin America. And we would have to suggest that recovery will be slower than in some regions such as Europe and Asia, where recovery is starting to bounce back. A couple of points I would just draw people's attention to here, specifically in Latin America. We would expect that the smaller outlets, such as coffee and tea shops, such as the QSRs, will be the fastest to recover. They are the most likely to be able to manage, let's say, social distancing, the most able to manage a core basic range, and potentially, given the sensitivities around disposable income, economic concerns, they're the value player. That's where the value players may well find that they have the fastest recovery. So, for example, the likes of McDonald's and Burger King and Subway may seem to be the fastest recovering simply because they can offer such trusted value. Now, food service outlets will need investment to secure their futures. Around the world, Diageo is one of the best examples of this. We've seen very significant recovery funds being put in place for the hospitality industry by manufacturers. We're also seeing very interesting trends around groups of restaurants coming together. So, for example, in Latin America, a new, let's say, loyalty scheme, membership club being created to help restaurants benefit from the economies of scale, from mass marketing, mass purchasing, to try to create some form of security or safety net. And it's this way forward, this positive, pragmatic way of thinking, where and manufacturers can help, but restaurateurs can do a lot to help themselves to stay in the public mind. Certainly, it's Global Data's view that those operators that stay most visible and clearly show the consumers the opportunities, the value, the benefits of returning to them, that will be the most successful. So it's a good time to start thinking about the change that we expect to see and how we can leverage those changes to drive success and drive growth. Well, there will be significant food service closures, but that does create opportunity as well as risk. As businesses start to go into administration, as businesses start to, let's say, think about closures, that creates opportunities for some of the most assertive players to steal share, to save jobs by buying other chains or buying up outlets or distribution groups. Howard Schultz, this is a little bit dated now, but I think the intent of his statement that we see from back in April remains absolutely true and remains pretty much proven. If we don't provide a backstop for restaurants, we could see a situation in which approximately 30% or more of small independent retailers or restaurants never reopen. Well, that worst case scenario is certainly looking like it could be true in many countries, and proactive work is required to turn that around, because consumers remain concerned. In some countries, for example, Brazil, we are seeing an increasing number of consumers who tell us they are extremely concerned. These are consumer studies that we're actually tracking on a week-by-week basis. And so we're seeing in countries like Brazil and the US, consumers becoming increasingly concerned. And then we ask that question a slightly different way as well. We ask consumers, do you expect the situation to improve in your country? And again, in Brazil, as in the US, we're seeing consumers telling us that they are less excited about seeing the situation improve. So lots to do around the world, but specifically in Latin America, specifically in Brazil, with reassuring consumers about the marketplace. Now, by chance, this week, actually, in Argentina, Global Data is continuing to carry out store audits, industry checks, as we do around the world on a weekly basis. And we happen to be studying Argentina at the moment. And we've seen something really very interesting. The market, in terms of quick serve restaurants, is just almost entirely now delivery. So in a way, that's positive. Consumers really wishing to stay investing in the food service marketplace, but people really moving away from that in-store experience, just wanting it to be delivered to them in the safest possible way. So that tells us that one of the ways that we may choose to react quickly and really try to, let's say, grab onto this trend is to be aware of the fact that consumers appear to be trusting that delivery process. What can everyone on the line today do to capitalize upon that? We must prepare for shifts, even if they are relatively short term, in trade patterns. Leveraging this trust that appears to be available in Argentina of delivery to home is absolutely critical. Let's try to move quickly and capitalize upon that. Now, this isn't necessarily related to coronavirus, although I think it's one of the most, let's say, relevant pieces of insight that we could show you. Wendy's in the US has been moving towards trying to break down fast food stereotypes, develop trust, develop transparency, by actually encouraging people to sit and watch the processes in the kitchen, sit and show the consumers just how fresh the products are, just how trustworthy they can be, how good, let's say, and professional the processes are within the kitchen. This is a great example of an initiative that becomes even more critical today. Break down stereotypes, develop trust, be candid, be clear and transparent. And this could be a great way to earn your consumer trust and loyalty. Now, I mentioned a few slides ago that consumer behavior is being tracked throughout this coronavirus period by Global Data. And this is a question that we've been asking now since March. We've asked it every week, and every week we've seen these top two results become more and more important. So the question, what kind of information would you like from brands during the coronavirus pandemic period? The number one answer, tips on personal health and well-being. Consumers have become fascinated with, how do I stay healthier? How can I look after myself better? How can I protect my family more? So anyone on the line today, anyone dialing in, one of my biggest pieces of guidance to you would be, how can you demonstrate to your consumers, to your partners, to your clients, how you can help them be healthier, how you can help their personal well-being? Messages about the ingredients that you're using, messages about your processes, messages about the benefits of the products. Are you producing, let's say, lower calorie products? Are you producing products with added vitamins, added calcium, added nutrients? If you are, now is the time to leverage those statements. This can have a disproportionately positive message and benefit to your consumers. And then the second most important statement that we're seeing from consumers is, please tell me what you're doing. As a brand, share the initiatives that you're adopting. What have you done to protect your workforce? What have you done to protect your operator partners? What are you doing to protect the consumers? How are you planning to grow? How are you planning to protect jobs? Consumers have become laser focused on this. It's going to become one of the decision making steps that they take in terms of, where do I want to be loyal in the future? Who do I want to continue to shop with or consume from? So if you're considering a marketing message, if you're considering in-store messages, if you're considering advertising or making statements, think about what you've done to protect your workforce and to protect your customers. This could be an incredibly powerful statement. Now, if we consider the LATAM consumer a little bit more broadly, a couple of traits are becoming clear that we think are learnings that can be applied to food service, as well as just in general, as well as across the retail universe, and as well as absolutely being relevant to coronavirus. So a very significant number of LATAM consumers tell us that they are influenced by whether or not a product is ethical or sustainable. And about 80% of LATAM consumers say that online has had a really positive impact on them in the last year. So as you're thinking about your go-to-market strategies in LATAM, please consider that ethics and sustainability is really critical to the LATAM consumer. These two numbers are both well ahead of the global averages. And also think about the fact that your consumer in general is happy to move towards online. Now, another couple of ways of looking at what the Latin American consumer is thinking. 88% of consumers are driven by customization. And incredibly, in Argentina, that rises to 96%. It's effectively ubiquitous in Argentina. And interestingly, of all of the countries that we measure, that Argentina score is the very highest of all of the countries. So think about how your products, your services, your approach, your message can be customized by personal lifestyle, customized by demographic, customized by channel, customized by health need, customized by, let's say, value versus premium, by family type or lifestyle. There are ways to ensure that one size does not fit all. LATAM consumers will reward you with their loyalty if you can show that you understand that they appreciate customization. And then another trend, which I think it's fair to say many people have expected may drop or dip or die out from in the wake of the coronavirus, is this move towards premium products of an artisanal or a craft style nature. Now, globally, we see 56% of consumers telling us that they prefer artisanal or craft, but that actually rises to 65% in LATAM. So again, we have a consumer in LATAM that is considerably more focused on, give me artisanal, give me craft, give me handmade, give me local solutions. That, of course, can apply in retail, but absolutely can be applied to food service if we think about the manufacturers that you want to work with, the producers that you want to work with. So now is the time to really go as heavy as possible on messages to the LATAM consumer about customization and artisan, craft, handmade, homemade. These are messages that can help everyone on the line today grow trust and grow sales. Now, actually, it's one of the reasons why a company like 7-Eleven is really focusing on new products such as fresh, natural, organic messages. So 63% of global consumers, and this is true in LATAM just as it is around the world, tell us that when they're thinking about eating out, one of the most important considerations is availability of fresh, natural, and organic products. So here's an instance where a food service trend has driven a change into retail. So I think from that we can see just how critical it is in the food service world. 7-Eleven bringing in Suja organic kombucha drinks for health benefits, for natural benefits, for organic benefits. So actually giving share of shelf to their drinks category away from some of the big red or blue drinks manufacturers that we could all name. What's interesting to me here is that this is clearly designed to steal some share away from the food service industry. These are drinks that you might traditionally find available on, let's say, fast casual outlets, or health food fast casual outlets, or some of the most progressive new restaurant chains. 7-Eleven offering that, I think, is let's say, a nod towards the need to capture the younger, trendier, health-focused consumer. And food service can really offer us a really great example of best practice in terms of ethical positioning. So 87% of global Gen Zs want companies to make clear the values that they stand for. A Gen Z is that youngest consumer, 12, 13, 14, 15 years old. So really the consumer of the future, a consumer that you should be thinking about targeting or working with more and more in everything that you do. And really, Shake Shack is the global standard for nailing this message. So Shake Shack stands for something good. And I just want to read from this corporate statement that they have. So we stand for something good in everything we do. That means carefully sourced premium ingredients from like-minded purveyors that we admire and love. And it's that statement about like-minded purveyors we admire and love which really grabs my attention. If you're a manufacturer and you're looking to work with Shake Shack, you'd better share the same values. You'd better have the same ethics as them and be able to substantiate them and be able to show why they are critical to you. Because Shake Shack is saying, we won't work with you if you don't share our values. And I truly believe that that's going to be a trend that we're going to see more and more operators and retailers in general moving towards. We will only work with providers. We will only work with producers. We will only work with manufacturers that absolutely share the same ethics as us, because that's how we will create a groundswell of loyalty and drive a successful business moving forwards. One of the things that global data offers, or at least offered up until about 6 months ago, and we hope that we get right back to it as soon as possible, are global study tours. So actually taking our partners, our clients, our customers out into the food service world and looking at best practice. Now, this is from a study tour I led in Manhattan about a year ago. It's a company called Dig. And it's really one of my favorite examples of leveraging, let's say, great experience, showing the consumer what you stand for, what they will get from you. So Dig has its Dig-isms. We buy food from farms, we roll with seasons, we make meals from scratch. So all of that speaks to those, let's say, intuitive, emotional drivers within us. So that feels fresher, that feels better, that feels more quality, feels healthier for me. We cook for you, we serve you mostly vegetables, we eat at a table. Now again, that message may have to just be put on the back burner for a little while. I'm sure that we will get back to it. But Dig encourages you to just sit down, make friends with strangers. Don't go straight back to the office. Don't just go straight back and stand in the street and eat your sandwich. Take a break, do the right thing, take 20 minutes, chill out, enjoy your lunch, make friends, relax. That's the great experience that as human beings, we want to return to food service for. And I positively believe that's one of the reasons why food service will bounce back. There's going to be challenge. There will be job losses. There will be store closures. But food service will bounce back because as a human society, we've come to love and expect that connection, that experience. And as we all take time now, everyone on the line takes time to think about what messages do I need to win with in the future? What products, what occasions, what categories, what innovation do I need to win with in the future? If I could point you back to one slide from this whole deck, I'd point you back to this slide. So let's think about moving forwards. It's a time of change. One of my favorite sayings, don't be afraid of change, be afraid of staying the same. Now, we've gone through dramatic change. Very concerning trends have been seen, very concerning messages, and of course, in some instances, literally a matter of life and death. But let's not be afraid of embracing the fact that this brings us opportunity. Now, the restaurant industry will change, and the restaurant industry will need leaders. Let's hope that it doesn't change this much, where to have a safe meal in a restaurant requires this level of, let's say, bubble. But let's take a moment to agree that creative ways are going to be required to drive, let's say, the view of the consumer that the risk has gone and that the reward is there from returning back to the restaurant industry. And I'd encourage everyone on the line, whatever your role, if it's in operation, in strategy, in production, manufacturing, distribution, think about how you can help your end users with removing risk and re-seeing that great reward of coming back into the restaurant industry. Now, meal occasions will change. The way that consumers think about using the restaurant industry will have changed under lockdown. And if there's any continued periods of restricted movement, that will only further continue to change the way that consumers think about restaurants. How can we leverage that? Well, socially conscious promotions, thinking about leveraging that incredible community spirit that we've seen for the last 3 or 4 months. There's no reason for that to disappear. Let's use that for good. Maybe particularly the manufacturers or producers among you can start to think about how those messages can be continued. One of the most interesting themes that we've seen over the last few years has been this trend of everyone taking photographs on their phone of the dining experiences they're having. Well, as more and more takeout is had, as more and more home delivery is had, people will still want to, let's say, put their photographs on Instagram, show their friends what they're doing. Maybe this is an opportunity to drive premium home delivery. Maybe this is an opportunity to drive premium takeout. Food that still looks great and is truly experiential, even taken away from the store. And perhaps one of the most interesting new occasions or new themes I would draw your attention to is really this idea of, help me get healthier. I wonder if food service can help me be overly, let's say, healthier into the future. Immune boosting menu items. What can we do to drive innovation? What can we do to bring new ingredients that are focused on health? This can be true in every day part. It can be true in snacking occasions, as well as it can be true in breakfast, lunch, dinner occasions. It can be true in formal dining. It can be true in, let's say, more informal QSR occasions, even in coffee shops. How can we help consumers feel a little bit safer about using food service by giving them healthier and healthier products? It feels like that might be the time now to win with that kind of message. So I think there's 4 compelling areas where growth can be created. Manufacturers can absolutely play a key role in this, but so can the creators of business strategy, those of you involved in logistics or production. Think about the new sales channels for operators and suppliers that might be coming about from this new period of change that we will see. New engagement potential absolutely exists. New online socializing, brands and chefs helping to replicate the restaurant dining experience at home, online cooking tutorials. Businesses will need to be remodeled. The companies now have the right supply chain solution to even survive in the future. Reinvigorating offerings, but with an eye on price. So as I mentioned, artisan, craft, homemade, those great trends will recover. But in the next short-term period, value and price and cost and promotion might be higher up on the list of consumer priorities. And just to kind of come back to another retail-led theme to close as we started with, I would like to ask this question. Perhaps we should be wondering if this was actually the future after all. So Amazon had been launching a series of no contact, no lines, no checkout shopping experiences. And I think many of us may have been guilty of thinking this is just a series of concept stores. It's a luxury to prove a point. This is not the future. Well, maybe this is the future. Maybe not only in retail, but maybe also in food service. We're all learning to reduce unnecessary contact. can make us healthier, it can protect us. We can still have great experiences. Maybe we should all be asking, do we need to be moving food service towards this, let's say, contact-less, more tech-driven, pre-ordering, apps, e-commerce, in-store ordering cubicles, for example, exactly as McDonald's launched or relaunched 4 or 5 years ago. It might be time to challenge everything that we know about the food service industry. And I wonder if one of the ways to reduce risk and build reward and build loyalty is to start thinking about, are we moving really towards this idea of a contactless society? And we must remember, even in dire times, very bleak times, where we've seen, as I mentioned, life and death situations, food service is designed to be fun. Let's remember to keep bringing the fun to food service. So let's return to this idea of Burger King as best in class in terms of their marketing, and this idea of having a socially distant experience by creating your own 2-meter space. I love what Burger King has been trying to do, and I'd encourage everyone on the line to remember, let's keep trying to bring the fun to food service, because that's what consumers want. It's how we will get through this together, and it's how we will drive revenue, margin, and growth back into Latin American food service. So let me just wrap up. The best time to plant a tree was 30 years ago. This is one of my favorite Chinese proverbs. The second best time is right now. Maybe that's never been more true than the position that we find ourselves in today. Thank you very much for allowing me to take the time and present these thoughts to you. What I'd love to do now is just pass back to Michael, and hopefully we've got some time to start thinking about some questions. What I would say, if anyone does want to reach out, follow up after the event, my email and number are there. Please do reach out, and it would be our pleasure to look at how we can continue a conversation with you and make the very best of 2020 together. Mike, back over to you.
Thank you very much. Okay, Mark, that was a fascinating presentation with some really great insight in there. It's been generating a lot of, first of all, a lot of chat amongst the registrants, but also some questions. So some are quite COVID-19 related, and some are more future trend gazing. So let me start with a couple of. I'm going to start here with an observation rather than a question. It's from Armando, who is a consultant in Brazil. He has said he would respectfully disagree with you, saying that Brazil is actually more than 50% of the food service market in Latin America. And he said, we are recovering much faster than previous forecasts. So he's also followed that up by saying, he's asked if you have any particular observations, or if you're aware of, he's mentioned some stores here. Apparently Bob's has about 700 stores, Giraffas has 400 stores, Madero, more than 150 stores. Some of the most important burger chains in Latin America or Brazil. Armando's point there is that that it's perhaps slightly more positive from his point of view than the forecast. Would you like to comment on that at all?
Well, I mean, first of all, thank you, and always happy for challenge or extra new points of view to come in. If I'm honest, I that wasn't a point of view that I have seen necessarily raised before. Let's say our projections that we've seen, and several from around the industry would suggest that Brazil has had quite a challenged last few months, but great to hear. I don't think I have a response other than to say thank you very much for clarifying that. Really great to hear that there seems to be more of a positive recovery, and that's something that I'll certainly be looking into in the next couple of days.
Staying with specific countries, we had a question here from a consultant called Keith, who has asked if you have any particular insight into the future of food service in Colombia specifically. What do you have any awareness of kind of how they are reacting, and sort of what the future of food service looks like in Colombia specifically?
Yeah, actually, that's a very interesting point. Not kind of, let's move away from COVID-19. Colombia is one of the most dynamic markets that we're certainly tracking. As we think about the one of the most important trends in food service that we've seen in the last few years has been the rise of fast casual. Shake Shack is actually a really great example of the fast casual industry. Many of you will have seen not only Shake Shack, but Five Guys Burgers and Fries, Freshie, Panera Bread as an example. So that's slightly more premium QSR, much more experiential, generally more tending towards artisan, premium products, handmade, customized. And that absolutely is a trend within Colombia. And that suggests a move towards the consumer seeing Colombian food service as being an experience that they want to invest in. We would expect to see higher and higher average prices, a move towards the slightly more premium outlets within Colombian food service. Now, not only is that great, obviously, for some of those more famous brands that want to move into the region, but it's also really great for those artisan, to use that word again, those artisan players that want to leverage that and drive the most premium coffee, bakery, burger, fresh salad, healthier products. So I would suggest that move towards premium, fast casual, artisan in Colombia suggests a real investment from the consumer. It's a great trend. Wherever we've seen that previously, it generally suggests a really good spike in, let's say, overall food service sales. A rising tide, brings all the boats up. And where we've seen fast casual, artisan trends driving the marketplace, it's great news for the food service industry as a whole. So actually, we project Colombia to be a growing and increasingly important and dynamic market for sure.
Great stuff. Thank you, Mark. Actually, a question from Colombia, from Miguel in Colombia, but not actually about Colombia. It's actually for the whole region. Miguel has asked, could a possible vaccine against COVID-19 dramatically change the scenario for Latin America or not?
Well, yes. I mean, I think that comes with a couple of caveats. If it's proven and successful and pretty much ubiquitously available, then of course, I think that immediately starts to remove some of the uncertainty, some of the risk. If I think about a different industry altogether, if we think about let's say, concert industry, the rock concert industry, music industry, theater industry, we're really seeing delay after delay in terms of when any big new tours might happen or when any big new theatrical events might happen. And really there seems to be a theme of waiting for a vaccine before anyone's happy to put 70,000 people in a stadium to watch a band. I think if we use that as an example, the moment a vaccine is available, you'll see tours, musicals, theater opening up very, very quickly as people feel they are protected. And I think we can extrapolate in the same way. If it's universally available, if it's trusted and proven, then I think, yes, absolutely, that immediately has a very positive effect. I feel we're a way off from that. I think the next, I don't know, and this is no kind of scientific statement. This is my personal feeling. We're maybe 9 months, 10 months, 11 months away from something where people are happy to just ubiquitously take that. So I think the onus right now should not be on waiting for a vaccine, trusting something will happen. It should be on manufacturers and operators to create safe environments. I can't stress enough, the onus is on the operator, be it the brand, the franchise, the store manager, to create an environment and show it to be safe, so that consumers feel that they can come to you. And maybe that more than anything else is a way to steal share. If your environment seems safer, the risk seems less, the reward seems more than your direct competitor, you will win. You will drive share. Thank you, Mark. Staying on the subject of kind of how operators can mitigate against the risk of the spread of COVID-19, a question from Alberto in the States, who has asked, what new concepts are you aware of for designing kitchens and restaurants for COVID? I'm assuming that's a reference to things like ghost kitchens. And it's probably worth looking at some context there, because prior to the pandemic, something that we're very aware of in terms of our dealings with food service consultants is they're constantly dealing with kitchens shrinking, getting smaller, front of house areas getting bigger, and kitchens shrinking and having to do more in less space. Do you see there being a major impact on kitchens now, bearing in mind social distancing requirements and things like that? How's that going to affect new kitchen design, you think? Yeah, that's a really pertinent question. And in fact, Just last week, I wrote a white paper for one of our large clients in Latin America about the rise of ghost kitchens. Ghost kitchens was actually on the increase anyway. So, for example, Shake Shack in Europe actually starting to develop ghost kitchens. Now, the benefit of that, of course, is actually that it plays against the trend of home delivery or delivery to the office, rather than being dependent upon or restricted by your capacity to deliver from the 10 stores that you have within central London or central Mexico City, let's say. Ghost kitchens allow you to simply deliver out to anybody within a let's say 10-mile diameter that wants to order from you. It removes the necessity for the stores to lead the delivery and allows you to just target a demographic in a big city to maximize your delivery capability. Now, that was already something that many major brands were moving towards. Ghost kitchens is something that's going to trend up over the next few years. Incredibly, that will only be driven now. That will only be, let's say, dynamically moved forward by COVID. It allows you to absolutely maintain secure processes, social distancing. A ghost kitchen can have 5 or 6 people working very securely with no customer contact, simply processing orders and getting them out safely. Again, that idea of safe, that idea of reward versus risk. I think anything that can be advertised as being your product is coming to you from a dedicated kitchen, not from a restaurant populated, with hundreds of people in it, I think is going to be incredibly powerful. So the idea of ghost kitchens, the idea of, let's say, closed kitchens or bigger industrial production can only grow from here and can only reassure the consumer.
Wonderful, thank you, Mark. A question here from my colleague Tina. Hello, Tina. She's asked, what are the demographics that are setting the direction of the food service market in Latin America? Is it being determined by younger customers, millennials or Gen Z, as in other parts of the world? One of the stats you mentioned was 87% of global Gen Zs want companies who have strong values. Are you seeing that as a particularly strong driver in Latin America?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm very lucky. I get to come down to Latin America 3 or 4 times a year. I've done so for several years now. Love to come down and see the way that cities like Buenos Aires, Santiago, Mexico City are developing. And the trend I see is an increasingly young demographic. Every time I go and look at store audits, store visits across any of the main cities in Latin America, I see increasingly artisan. I see increasingly ethnic driven, so global ingredients. I see spicier and spicier, healthier and healthier products, all of which is driven by the youngest generations. So for years now, we've been talking about the need to absolutely understand the millennial. I can tell you today the Gen Z is the new millennial. Not enough research has been done yet about the Gen Z consumer to understand them properly. Global Data is leading the charge on that. We all know a lot about the millennial. We know about their decision-making processes. The millennial, let's say 25, 30 years old, as they start to go through their life cycles, I think we understand the way they're going to change, what drives their loyalty. Gen Z is even more about the ethics, the values, the sustainability, the planet, the implications. Gen Z will ask themselves, what does this mean for me? What does this mean for my age group? What does this mean for my region? What does this mean for the planet? Way more than any generation in the past. And it is the fast casual players, like I mentioned, those in Colombia as well. This is one of the regions they're doing so well. One of the reasons they're doing so well is that they make statements about their ethics. They make statements about their quality. They make statements about their values. They have a position that they believe in and they tell you what it is. And Gen Z loves that. And let's not forget, they're not only our consumer of the future, they're our colleague of the future. There are politicians of the future. There are business leaders of the future. And they will carry with them those passions for doing business the right way, treating people the right way, being diverse, being inclusive. These are passionate people that will only improve the way we all work together. But for now, as they're teenagers, as they're coming into food service, they can be your very, very best consumers. So embrace them, change for them. You will not regret adapting to the needs of the Gen Z consumer.
Wonderful. Thank you, Mark. We've got time for just a couple more questions. And if we can be quick on these, that'd be great. Thank you. We have a question from Nahum, who's a consultant in the States. Hi, Nahum. He's put, what are your thoughts, Mark, on food service workers' safety, often working in tight existing kitchens? How can we make kitchens healthier for the employees? How are businesses dealing with work continuity if someone tests positive, for example?
Yeah, I'd encourage everyone to look at the way that Domino's has worked all around the world, not just in the UK here. I know there's been several very positive stories written about Domino's in terms of how they strived to stay open safely with social distancing, with masks, in terms of how they could serve the local community and still do the right thing by their employees. Look, I think the simple way of saying this is, it will become clear which operators did the right thing by their employees and which did not. There should be a zero risk policy. Anyone with any symptoms should be immediately sent home, not allowed in the building. If that means a decline in sales, if that means certain orders can't be fulfilled, that's what it means. The health of the employee is paramount. It is critical. And as I say, I imagine over the course of the next few months, there will be plenty of case studies about which employers did it the right way. But the health of the individual is absolutely critical and should be the paramount decision.
Excellent, thank you. On the question, on the subject of Gen Z, a comment here from Dylan, who said, as a Gen Z teenager on the call, I completely agree with what Mark has just said about business values and ethics, which is lovely to hear. But also a follow-up question from Stuart on that subject, who has said, will the increasing price of eating out stifle growth in Latin America? And do you think that Gen Z are willing to pay for more ethically sourced food?
Yeah, that's a great question, because for years now, we've been talking about consumers want health. Well, are they prepared to pay the extra to get the healthier? And there's been a balance of consumers not necessarily doing what they say they're going to do. They say they want health. They say they want organic. They say they want gluten-free. And then they're not really prepared to make up the difference. Again, I think one of the ways that we can expect the youngest millennials and Gen Z to be different from anyone that we've seen before is that they will actually put their money where their mouth is. They will actually pay for the experience. One of the trends I would expect to continue to be true and become even more true is, in terms of budgeting, we're seeing people actually spending more and more of their disposable income in food service. That's been true for a little while. It's particularly true of the youngest generation. But what I expect them to do is maybe reduce down the number of visits and increase the spend. So you go fewer times, but you have more and more premium, more and more better experiences. And of course, that drives revenue and drives margin for the whole industry if you're increasing your spend. So look to see a trend of maybe fewer visits, higher spend to get that really great quality experience.
Great, thank you, Mark. Final question for you. For me, it's the billion-dollar question. It's come from Juan in El Salvador. He's asked, when do you expect the restaurant industry in Latin America to recover from COVID-19? And in the meantime, what are the major points to focus on in the industry?
Okay, let me handle that the other way around. So major points to focus on. Expect there to be an element of your consumers that absolutely have to have value. It's why McDonald's will win in the short term. If I have $5 to spend, where am I going to go? I'm probably going to go to McDonald's. I might not be the most loyal McDonald's consumer, but I know exactly what I'm going to get. I know the Big Mac I'm going to get, the fries I'm going to get, the drink I'm going to get. My kids will get the dollar menu. Everyone walks away happy with the experience that they've had. And I think those operators that win will be those that address the fact that there needs to be value statement. Consumers are worried about income. They're worried about their jobs. So please create value messages. Double the number of promotions. Bring in some basic ranges. A short-term play could prove pivotal to showing today's consumer that you understand. That said, do not lose sight of the big trends. Don't give up on artisan ethics. Don't give up on bringing in new ethnic diversity ranges, new ingredients, new innovation. Don't give up on experience. Those trends will come back. They were driving the industry. They won't disappear. They will come back. So I would suggest now is not the time to make dramatic changes. If you have great organic statements, stick with them. If you have great innovation, new experiences. Stick with them. Don't give up. Adapt. And then to answer the first part of that question, again, with the caveat of a vaccine universally available, absolutely, it would have an immediate and very positive effect. But the thing that would change, or the thing that would secure the short, medium, and long-term success of the Latin American food service industry is all operators, all manufacturers coming together, remove risk, consistent messaging. One of the biggest challenges that we've seen in the US, to be completely candid, is just a lack of consistent messaging. The consumer is confused. Try and avoid confused consumers. It's probably always actually a good rule in marketing and in operations in general. Now more than ever before, avoid confusing the consumer. Give them very clear, very safe rules, and they will reward you with their loyalty because you've helped them enjoy the food service experience.
Mark, I think that's an excellent point to end on. I would just like to thank you, probably on behalf of all of our registrants, for a really comprehensive and excellent presentation. Thank you very much for your time and for your input. I would also like to very much extend my thanks to our supporters, Woodstone. Thank you for their support. And if you would like to check out their website, it's woodstone-corp.com for more information. In the meantime, I'd like to thank you all for joining us today. I do hope you can join us next month for our next webcast, which is focusing on the future of food service in North America. Again, details to follow on that one once we confirm the exact timing. Meanwhile, for those FCSI the Americas members who are watching, don't forget to join the division's happy hour call later today. I hope it's a good one. I'll be raising a glass in your direction from London. Otherwise, on behalf of Mark and myself, thank you again for watching and have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you.